Is this the last weekend of Big 12 football? There's a real chance in 96 hours that Texas Tech and BYU have clinched their spots in the Big 12 championship. That's got to feel good. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Yeah, I mean, BYU and Texas Tech, both going to the Big 12 championship, is certainly on the table. TJ Pittenger of College Football Addiction will help explain that this could be the final meaningful weekend of Big 12 football. We just ride off into the sunset knowing who's going to play in 2 weeks. Then, the SEC, playing the Citadel this week, huh? It's cupcake week in the Southeastern Conference, and they really think they deserve 8 teams in the college football playoff? Cowardice. I've got some intense thoughts. And then, Notre Dame, fraudulent? Yeah, not only are they possibly fraudulent, but the ACC, the conference they have a contract with, just called them out for it. That's not good. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. TJ, BYU, Texas Tech, they agree on one big thing, huh?
How's it going, my man?
Dude, the Big 12's good. Like this time last season, I was worried that the Big 12 was bad. And this year, they have been so much better on the national stage. I could not be happier with where the conference sits.
Headlined by, not to leave the Utah folks out of it, or Cincinnati. I know that was a disappointing result last week, but headlined by Texas Tech and BYU, who have been very good this year. The only loss between them being, 2 losses, but the one with a backup quarterback, the one with a head-to-head matchup. So somebody had to lose that one. Headlined by Texas Tech and BYU. They can clinch something here very shortly.
Yeah, we could be looking at the last meaningful weekend of Big 12 football. We can go into Thanksgiving. Everybody can eat their turkey, get fat, loosen a belt buckle, and say, okay, we already know who's playing in Arlington. Like there is a genuine, this is the cool part for me. There's a genuine talk amongst Big 12 analysts or players or coaches, or at least in the back of their mind, that come Sunday this week, BYU and Texas Tech are now completely planning for each other, and they know they'll be playing each other in the conference championship. And that's something that didn't hit me until this morning when I thought, oh, shoot, we are on the precipice of these two teams knowing this week, and we have 2 games left for the college football season. Tech has 1 of knowing they're both going to the Edward Jones Big 12 football championship. Ben Criddle tweets out, Texas Tech clinches with a loss by Arizona State and a BYU win over Cincinnati. Bam. Done. Over. Texas Tech is in. Or Tech gets in with losses by Arizona State, BYU, and Utah. BYU will clinch with a win over Cincy and a loss by Arizona State and Houston. And that there is a fine chance that BYU can also get in with a win over Cincinnati and an Arizona State loss and a Utah win. So let's look at that. Utah beating Kansas State. That's going to happen by as many points humanly possible. The over-under is 52.5. TJ, I think Utah themselves may hit 52 points in the first half alone. They've got, people always say, oh, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 0 quarterbacks. Unless you're the Utah Utes. Bird Ficklin is a monster, and their run game has only gotten better. Their line has only gotten better. Utah is an elite college football team, deserves a spot in the playoff. I truly believe that. For BYU playing Cincinnati, this is a Cincinnati team that they're not hapless, but gosh, everything they had on the silver platter when they were 7-1 got erased after the blowout loss to Utah and then a loss at home to Arizona. What do they have left to play for? A really outside shot at the college football playoff. That's going to be tough. Then this is the question mark game. Arizona State at Colorado. If you're Utah, you're rooting for Colorado. If you're Texas Tech, you're rooting for Colorado. If you're BYU, you are rooting for Deion Sanders and the Buffs. This game opened at 8.5 in favor of Arizona State and is now moved to 7.5. The Sharps, the bettors, the big money like the Buffs. A night game at Folsom Field. I read an article from The Athletic today. Yeah, I think it was The Athletic that said that Folsom Field is one of the most underrated atmospheres in the Big 12, one of the toughest to play in. And look, Arizona State is not winning games convincingly right now. They lost to Houston a couple of weeks ago. Without Sam Leavitt at quarterback, they struggled against West Virginia at home. At Iowa State, 24-19 was a gutsy win, no doubt. And obviously their defense was great against Texas Tech, and having Sam Leavitt helped them be elite. But I also saw them lose 42-10 on the road to Utah. Like I saw them lose a night game pretty brutally against the Utah Utes. There's certainly a chance Arizona State's in that boat. And TJ, we don't even have to do a show next week. It could just be Texas Tech and BYU when the dust settles on Saturday night. And I think that's probably what Brett Yormark wants right now.
Well, here's the thing. We are still going to do a show. So make sure that you are subscribed to both places and you don't miss
Basketball, hockey, wrestling.
And here's the other thing. I still would really like to see the Big 12 get 2 teams into this thing. Yeah. And if, so we say that they will clinch for that championship game. I don't think they'll take off because both Big 12 teams will want to get there with 1 loss in BYU and Texas Tech so that we hopefully see the committee uphold a standard of not penalizing teams for qualifying for a conference championship game. Yep. If BYU happens to qualify for a conference championship game and then loses a game to a team that is ranked above them, I don't think they should be penalized for that. So all that said, we will do a show next week. But how are your thoughts, feelings, everything you know about SEC bias, ESPN, everything else that goes into this? What are your thoughts on both of these teams making it to the dance?
Yeah, so the best case scenario of the Big 12 is come back. I know I do this once a week, and I'm going to use this one early, my one time out that I get where I pull you back on screen. That's hear me out. I want your thoughts on this.
I can't pick my nose now. That stinks.
No, yeah. I have to stay on screen the whole time too. So now you get to feel it a little bit. If BYU and Texas Tech both clinch, and BYU beats Texas Tech in the college in the Big 12 title to go to the college football playoff, I don't think, and I believe that I'm in the majority here, that Texas Tech gets bumped out of the field of 12. They have enough respect to be at number 5, 6, somewhere in that mix. And so for them to be as high as they are, if BYU is number 11 coming into this and they win 24-21 against Texas Tech in Arlington, I think Tech drops to 8. And then BYU jumps to 7, or Tech sits at 9, BYU's at 8. Maybe we get a rematch in round 1. There's a way that we'll see these teams play 3 times this year, which is pretty cool. There's a way that they both have home games in the college football. Like, think about this. You're now looking at 11-2 Texas Tech, that by and large we consider to be a top 5, top 7 quality team, and 12-1 conference champion BYU. That team deserves a home playoff game in the postseason for sure. Their only loss being on the road to top 5, top 7 Texas Tech, right? I think if you're the conference, your best case scenario is, Oregon slips up, maybe Notre Dame slips up, which they won't, but Oregon slips up, Alabama slips up, sneak in Utah at 10, and then grab Texas Tech and BYU somewhere in that 7 and 8 range if BYU wins the conference title. Does it make sense, though? BYU winning the Big 12 championship, helping the Big 12?
You had a great chance to go 6-7 range just for the young viewers, and you went 7-8 and blew it. I think what is more concerning is if BYU loses another non-competitive game. Because I know the committee last year did not penalize SMU for losing to Clemson, and they left them where they were. And my full opinion is that when you qualify for an extra game, you should not be penalized for losing that game while other teams sat at home.
Amen.
That is my
Notre Dame.
I will die on that hill 100 times out of 100. I don't even really care what the score is. I would entertain an argument for, like, if Texas Tech wins by 30, I think we could probably say, like, maybe BYU, if they can't compete with this team twice at a neutral site, like, they lost worse on a neutral site than they did. I would entertain that argument. If you lose a game by 10 or less, 15 or less, I don't like you being penalized for having to play an extra game. If we thought they were a top 10 team, top 11 team, whatever, going into the weekend, them just having to play an extra game, if that does happen, every team that's on the bubble from now until eternity should opt out of their conference championship games. They should just not play it. Rhett Lashley said that last year. Hey, if we're going to get bumped out for playing Clemson, we'll just opt out of this thing. We just won't play it. That way you can't penalize us for it. So I will die on that hill. Again, BYU loses by 30. I think you could say, maybe you should have shown up for the game. But I worry about what the committee will do. I worry about what the committee will do with all these 2-loss SEC teams. These 2-loss, Michigan comes out of nowhere and goes 10-2. USC goes 10-2. What will they do with BYU in that situation? I'll just tell you. I know they did it last year with SMU. I think they got a lot of pushback on that because of the way that SMU played, and once they got to the playoff. And I know that you can't do the revisionist history. There's always going to be blowouts in the first round. I understand all that. I'm not saying I agree with the committee.
Florida State guy right here. Come on. He's on his soapbox.
The bias will always be there. the committee did the right thing last year with SMU. SMU deserved to go to the playoffs more than Alabama did. I will die on that hill.
I agree.
I don't know they're going to do it again. I don't know that they're going to do it again this year, Drake. I think if you're a BYU fan, you're hoping they do the same thing. I think everyone believes they should do the same thing if they could remove their biases, but I don't know that they will. So I do agree with you. I think BYU needs to win that game.
Yeah, I think so. And then and that's great for the Big 12. And then again, if Utah's sitting at 10 and they need some help from their friends, but I think they've proven they are playoff quality at the very least. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go with the NBA season being right here, right now. Victor Wembanyama. I'm a Spurs fan. Did you know that? I bet you didn't know that. I see I'm a Texas Rangers fan, a reluctant Dallas Cowboys fan, and a San Antonio Spurs fan. Why does it make any sense? Well, I have family friends that live in San Antonio, and so when I was a young chap, I was like, wow, I love these Spurs. Tim Duncan was good. And with the NBA being back, there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel. Even if you miss the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets. That's right. Same game parlays, live bets you can make into same game parlays. It keeps every game exciting. Right now. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel. Official sports betting partner of the NBA is FanDuel.
Drake Toll with Locked On Big 12 here on College Football Addiction. We are talking about the SEC this week. Not because they're going to dominate the ratings, not because they have the most teams in contention for the playoff, not because their games have been very exciting. Oklahoma lately has been great. Georgia's looked really good. We are SEC haters to some degree. There is good football that's played there. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of talent. They'll put the most guys in the NFL. None of that is what we're talking about. We are talking about the worst slate of games imaginable this week for the SEC. We talked about this in the offseason, and here we are ranting about it again.
Tragedy is the right word. I put it up there with some of history's worst moments.
The Hindenburg. This is the Titanic of weekends.
Hindenburg. Yes.
Did you ever think you'd get a Hindenburg reference on College Football Addiction?
That's a deep track, man. That blimp went down instantly. Like as soon as that blimp caught fire, it was done. This is like Coca-Cola in Atlanta cutting the Diet Coke with lime for as long as they did. Like that, this is a tragedy. I call it the Citadel week in the SEC. And not one of these teams are playing the Citadel, but it's still Citadel week because this is where you slot the SEC to look around and say, well, it was better than a bye. This conference only plays 8 league games. BYU didn't get to choose who their ninth opponent was. The SEC does, and by and large, they choose the Citadel. And I saw an SEC fan tweet something along the lines of, well, it's better than doing a bye week. It's kind of not. Because I think Auburn lost their Citadel game to New Mexico State a couple of years ago. Jerry Kill in New Mexico State, which is hilarious. And I'm hopeful that A&M or somebody slips up this week against their bye week. Samford and Texas A&M. We're in the heart of college football. We're about to see Michigan, Ohio State next weekend. We're going to see a top 25 caliber game between BYU and Cincinnati in Cincinnati at night this week. There are some classics. We've got a couple of big games.
Georgia Tech Pittsburgh play this week. Pittsburgh Miami play next week.
USC is going to play Oregon.
Michigan. Yeah, you mentioned Michigan, Ohio State.
Conference matchups that just make my tickle. Like I'm feeling good in my tummy. This is awesome. And then I'm going to turn my TV on to the SEC Network and SEC Plus and SEC Network. And I'm reading all the TV schedules on Saturday, November 22nd, 2025. And here are the opponents. Coastal Carolina, Western Kentucky, Mercer, Eastern, I think that's Eastern Illinois. It might be Eastern Indiana, whichever one EIU is. Charlotte and Samford are playing top 10 teams. So where the Big 12 is going to, my thing is, I would value, I believe this, and this is how the committee believes as well. I would value BYU losing by 1 point on the road to a top 25 quality Cincinnati team. Same as we saw Notre Dame lose. We've seen Alabama lose. We've seen plenty of Texas lose to quality opponents. I would rather do that than beat the hell out of Samford or Charlotte or Mercer or win by 10 against Mercer, which is probably going to be Auburn's case here. And that's the mentality of the SEC. They would rather go lose on the road to Missouri by 1 than beat the hell out of Coastal Carolina. I really believe that's how the committee is going to value these games. I hope that's how they value these games because it's just such a throwaway that you get to skip a game. The Big 12 doesn't get to skip a game. The ACC, the Big 10, there are schools that are like, God bless America. I got to freaking play another conference. I can't move this thing. That's not the case for the SEC. They do it every year right here, and it just sucks. Georgia's last 2 games, TJ, Charlotte and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's not what we thought they were. 88th strength of schedule, 88th strength of record, one of those two. And Charlotte sucks. So I don't, it just means more. Last best league. The SEC does it better. Dog, no. In the heat of the middle of what's supposed to be great and what we love about college football, these scared athletic directors, the scared commissioner just said, nah, let's play the Citadel. And I think that sucks.
It is brutal because we know what we really love.
Bad for the people. It's bad for the people.
We're on November. It's November 18th. These games happen on November 22nd. You know, Drake, what we have left? We have 2 weeks left. And you know what we've been waiting for that we haven't really gotten yet this year is that chaos week.
Oh,
that chaos week in November. And listen, we were kind of close last week because Oklahoma did win. Now that's 2 CFP teams that were playing in Tuscaloosa. We almost got South Carolina to knock off A&M. Pittsburgh wasn't really competitive with Notre Dame. We'll talk about the Irish here in a minute. But we were maybe it could happen. NC State could knock off Miami. There might be enough. We thought TCU maybe had a chance against BYU. That was a close spread. Maybe you could get that chaos week. You know what we're not going to have this week? When Georgia plays Charlotte, who's 1-9, when Texas A&M plays Sanford, who's 1-10, when Alabama plays Eastern Illinois, that's 3-8, we ain't getting a chaos week. We ain't getting that. And maybe it'll be rivalry week, but if the ACC's already locked up by then, if the Big 12's already locked up by then, the Big 10 is irrelevant because we know it's going to be Ohio State and Indiana there. Maybe if Michigan wins against Ohio State, you just flop them out, but then Ohio State's still going to the playoff. It removes the opportunity for that chaos week. And so, yeah, I mean, it just means more. I get it. I understand. Listen, I gave the SEC its praise. They're going to put more guys in the NFL. They're going to have more teams than anybody else in the college football playoff. They have more teams that are on the bubble than anybody else in the college football playoff. But a week like this, happening in late November, it's bad for the sport. It's bad for the fans. Do you think the fans in Athens last week that were all jacked up to beat the hell out of Texas, which I know Big 12 fans certainly didn't mind seeing, you think they're jazzed up for a 12:45 game against Charlotte with a first-year head coach who is 1-9? No, they're not jacked up for that. What are they going to be doing the whole time? They're going to be checking their phones for what's going on around them.
Alcohol sales will skyrocket for that game. That should Tropicalia will be flying in Athens.
Just to get through the game. And then the same thing for Alabama. Do you think Alabama fans would love anything more than, and so I'm not even really dogging on the fans there. As much as we give SEC fans a hard time, I don't think they love this either. Alabama just got embarrassed in their own house in a game. They outscored the opponent by 200 points and they lost the game. 200 points, 200 yards. Let's use the right word when you get paid to talk for a living. Alabama would love nothing more, their fans, than to beat a good team and prove that last week was a fluke. Prove that the Oklahoma game was their Florida State part 2, where it was a fluke and should not have happened. You ain't going to get that opportunity against Eastern Illinois. And I know people are trying to hype up the Auburn game in the Iron Bowl at Jordan Hare the next week. Let's be honest, Auburn's not a very good team either, and they're probably ain't much better than playing Eastern Illinois. But I'll tell you that it's bad for the fans. It's bad for the sport.
You know, I do blame the fans a little bit somehow, and I can
look at you going down this road.
Maybe I hate the fans. I do blame the fans a little bit, and another portion of this, I hope the committee doesn't look at these games and say, "Wow, Alabama, what an impressive win against Eastern Illinois or whoever it is." I really hope that they don't see A&M blow out the Citadel and think, "Yeah, move them above Indiana or Ohio State or whoever." That just is stupid to me. And the way I blame the fans is it seems pretty insufferable when I hear, it's not every SEC fan, but a lot of times it'll be Texas or Oklahoma fans, specifically Arkansas fans, thrown into that category. If you're Greg from Truman, Arkansas, and your whole deal is, man, I sure am glad we're not in the Big 12 because the SEC, we make $30 million more a year. We got no revenue. You're 2-8. You know, like you've got a really cool hot tub at the Tyson Athletic Facility on the campus of the University of Arkansas. How many times has Greg from Truman gotten into that hot tub? Hey, my weight room. How many times have you lifted in that weight room? What to what degree, aside from somehow still concession prices and ticket prices rising, to what degree has that $30 million helped your life? It hasn't. It's just helped you see your team go 2-8. So I do blame the fans to some extent, because I think that the SEC fans love to tout, oh, money, we can afford to buy this game. We need an extra game off because the SEC is so brutal. Like, dog, it doesn't affect your life like that. It's not that deep.
On to Notre Dame, fighting with the conference that they're a fake member of.
Who's worse, the ACC or Notre Dame?
The ACC.
Yeah.
Here's why.
What came worse, the chicken or the egg here? I can't tell.
I'm really trying to be cautious with this because I know it's going to offend somebody. You
want me to start? You want to collect your thoughts?
I want to do it. I want to do it. If I offend some people, I offend them.
Do it to them.
Who's worse, the drug addict or the person that enables them? Because the ACC is an enabler. The ACC had an opportunity in 2020 to, now if you struggle with that, again, it's college football addiction, so I felt like I could get away with it. If you struggle with that, I'm not trying to be insensitive.
Yeah, let me check my basis. Not making light of that at all, but the question, not at all. Who do you blame here? Who do you
somebody's
blame?
Got a gambling addiction.
Is it the person that gave the chip?
Is it the enabler?
Yeah, right.
And so
maybe gambling was a better. Maybe we should have
probably
started with gambling. But I see where you're going with it. Who do you blame here?
Who do you blame?
Yeah.
Yes, if you have a crippling addiction to anything in your life and you continue to be enabled, at some point a tiger doesn't change its stripes. At some point, you cannot continue to enable. So if I don't discipline my kids and they continue to fight each other, like there are so many things that probably were less sensitive than drug addiction. But here we are on college football addiction. And so you get what you get.
And locked on Big 12.
The ACC had a chance in 2020 when Notre Dame had no friends at the table to tell them, buck up, get in or get out. And the ACC did nothing. They let them be a member for 1 year so that they could curtail to Notre Dame, knowing full well that Notre Dame would never join this crap conference. And they didn't. And they enabled. And they let Notre Dame be who they want to be. And they still let Notre Dame take part in this ACC schedule. And they still let Notre Dame be a quasi member in other sports and all of those things. And Notre Dame is now going to get in over, listen, it pains me to say it, I don't care who wins the ACC championship. They are going to get in over the best ACC team that exists. Does Miami ultimately have 2 losses? And that's probably going to keep them out of the dance in Charlotte? Probably. But it's also the Notre Dame ACC relationship is ultimately going to keep Miami out of the playoff. And let's be honest, not that I think Miami is a national championship caliber team. They have national championship caliber talent, but they also have an idiot for head coach in a lot of respects. But it's going to keep the ACC from having a legitimate shot to go out and win anything of importance this year.
So I won't do the drug addict thing. I'll spare you.
I feel bad for the gambling addicts too. A lot of you guys are probably gambling addicts. I feel bad for not leading off with you guys. I should have shown some love there.
So for me, if you pose the question, do you blame the addict or the enabler? Yeah, if someone's feeding you the drugs every day, and if they're giving you the easy access to this, then yeah, I'm going to keep on that. Of course, that's something that's, why would I ever stop? Notre Dame can do whatever they want to the ACC. So it's so stupid to me that it's supposed to be me ragging on Notre Dame, by the way, because their schedule is pretty. I'll give you a little blurb on that here. Notre Dame, this comes from one of my new favorite accounts on Twitter, by the way, First and 16 podcast. Notre Dame, 1-2 in ranked matchups, 2-0 against group of 5 teams, 7-0 against Power 4 teams with a combined record of 10-47.
Ooh.
10-47 when those Power 4 teams play other Power 4. So in essence, like Arkansas's 0-8 against Power 4, Purdue's 0-9, Boston College 0-8. Doesn't even count the Arkansas loss to Memphis. Like nuts. Pitt is the only winner out of that bunch. And so I think Notre Dame already is not doing a very admirable thing in how they're playing their schedule. I believe BYU should be ranked above them. I think that Utah could beat them head-to-head because of the defense. And I think it's unfair Notre Dame's only 2 losses don't count as losses because they were quality.
Good losses, which is a wild thing that we have in 2025. Everybody gets a trophy.
Shouldn't work like that. Yeah, but of course, Ohio State beating Texas was awesome, right? That counts. That part counts. So I am of the mind, BYU, who has the number 6 resume in the country, number 27 strength of schedule, both of those far better than Notre Dame, should be in over the Irish. But what's even wilder somehow is as I'm going to rag on Notre Dame, I see a tweet from the ACC. Their official conference account adding Notre Dame, tweeting at Notre Dame, saying that Miami beat Notre Dame head to head, and Miami should be in. Notre Dame's a fraud. Notre Dame is this. Notre Dame doesn't deserve it. They're retweeting Joel Klatt and Chris the Bayer and Ian Heat and Chuck Todd and Clay Travis saying that Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be in. They're dragging Notre Dame's name. Dog, you're the same conference begging to have any and all affiliation with Notre Dame. How stupid is it to use your mouthpiece to say, look at Notre Dame. They suck. I just stop. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. You don't have to keep doing this to yourself, man. This is not. I don't get how the ACC continues to shoot itself in the foot, shoot everybody else in the foot. Like it's just. Somebody recanted to me, and I won't say who, but it was a Big 12 source, a guy who's pretty close with the Big 12 and works for the conference. He said, "Man, if we still had Bob Bowlesby, this thing would be a dumpster fire. We would just be the damn ACC." It's like, that's true. And it sucks for the ACC and its fan bases. But Brett Yormark's a businessman. Brett Yormark is the guy. He is a dude that is revamping and recreating what the Big 12 is as an identity with huge amounts of success. Bob Bowlesby was just Jim Phillips. And Jim Phillips is out of touch. He does not have, he's out of touch. That's the best way. It's not an attack on his character, but it just feels like every move the ACC makes, they win idiot of the day. This doesn't make any sense to go out after Notre Dame, who, guess what, is a member of your damn basketball conference and just kicked up. Like you're paying them. You're paying this school. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Some of the ACC's biggest matchups that happen on TV are due to Notre Dame,
no doubt,
being a quasi-member. You think about that Miami game to start the year. You think about the way that Florida State has played them over the years. Clemson has played them over the years. It's like simultaneously punching and hugging somebody at the same time. They have given Notre Dame the opportunity to do what they do. And I don't know if the Big Ten would let Notre Dame join as a quasi-member, a fake member. I don't know that. The Big 12 would. I don't know if the SEC would. But in the same breath, to go from drug addicts to the Bible, there's a Bible verse that says they cuss me and they praise me at the same time. And that is what the ACC is doing here. You are the ones who have given Notre Dame this opportunity to have a crap schedule, get a few big matchups that don't ultimately end up hurting them in the long run. You are the ones who have let Notre Dame be what Notre Dame is. The let me back up. Notre Dame is what they are because of their brand and their legacy. And I'm not trying to diminish them as a program. Yes, Notre Dame is, to me, the biggest program in our sport. That's fine. What Notre Dame is in 2025, the ACC has allowed to happen. And at the same exact time, you are smacking them in the face and completely disrespecting a partial member of your conference. And doing that to try and bump up, again, the best team that you have. The ACC knows that for all intent and purposes, Miami is not going to go to the ACC championship. There is a path. If Pittsburgh was to beat Georgia Tech and then Miami was to beat Pittsburgh, yes, then at that point they would go. But they know that their best team, their only chance of any kind of success in the college football playoff is Miami. And the ACC knows the only way they can do that is to shoot themselves in the foot by basically admitting that Notre Dame should not be a partner with this conference. I've whined about it for 2 years, Drake. This doesn't surprise me. The ACC making a misstep, the ACC doing something stupid, it in no way shocks me. It just is another data point that we have, and it's further proof of why teams like Florida State, Clemson, Miami, though they need to take care of their own business, certainly want to get out from under this awful leadership.
Yeah, man. Like, I can't. Did this whole thing, Cal and Stanford are ACC teams. I really wanted to rag on Notre Dame today, but then the ACC just said, nope, hold my beer. And there was a real chance, TJ, that this week, I think it's this week, Bear Bachmeier and Fernando Mendoza would square off. Cal and Stanford, baby.
In a vaunted ACC matchup.
Yep, in the ACC. Those two quarterbacks are leading their teams on a crash course to the college football playoff. The conference needs some help, man. They need some real help. And I'm sorry, you're at least for the time being, a guy who covers Florida State as a member of the ACC.
You know, people will tell me at times like, well, being the ACC guy. And I was like, look, can you call me anything?
Yeah, let's not do
can
that.
Can you just cuss me out? Can you MF?
Being the enabler. Being the enabler, huh?
Yeah. Can you just MF me instead of calling me the ACC guy?
College football addiction, man.
There is an A and a C in addiction. So, you know, I guess that is close enough. And there's another one in college. So, you know, I guess it's my fault for, you know, having similar letters. Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your content?
At Locked On Big 12, your podcast, as well as YouTube, and at Drake C. Toll on Twitter, at Ella Big 12 on Twitter, and just, I don't know, wherever else. Just Google me. Figure it out.
We got the account back. The account is back.
Yep, somehow, sadly.
The impersonator, that impersonating child for Halloween finally got the credentials.
To the chagrin of the general public, yes, I have my personal Twitter back in my own hands.
Drake, I appreciate you, bud.
Always fun, TJ.